Let's begin. Let us begin, folks. We are gonna begin. Live on LinkedIn, live on YouTube. Live everywhere. 83rd episode. Dear folks, done. Oh, sorry, I gotta send this message to the other group as well. Nice, done. Now it's better. Perfect. Good morning, Mr. Patil. How are you doing? How is everything? How are you doing? Welcome. You've got your front seats, I can see. Looking great and fit. Are you ready for the show that we deserve? You're ready for the show that we deserve. How's the long weekend? Well, it's like every other weekday, right? The work doesn't stop. The work doesn't stop for us, at least. How are you doing? What's up? Can you hear me properly? I guess you can, right? Let me check the LinkedIn till then. Yeah, LinkedIn is fine. LinkedIn is great. Yes. So let's begin. The show that we deserve. The show that we deserve. It's that good that we deserve it every day without break. Because without it, life becomes a bit dull, right? Bum 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 bum. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We are working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, everybody. Well, not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, well, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, a daily mental workout, a daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go! Oh, but before we go, gotta follow tradition, right? You know the tradition. You know the sweet and sacred tradition of the simultaneous sip. We'll all sip something together and it'll bring us good luck, as it always does, without fail, every day. Yeah, it makes us lucky. Makes the bad times go away. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a cup or mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice or stein, a canteen jug, a flask, or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. Today I'm having water with some black pepper in it. I need to have that coffee again, that humble bean beautiful coffee. It's just that it hurt my ears when I did that. But anyway, here it goes. Oh my god, beautiful. Beautiful. Healing. Healing. Sublime. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? You know what it says? It says that you are not alone. It says that we are in this together. And that's such a beautiful thing to say. With that out of the way, let's begin. Before we begin, Mr. Patil, Mr. Tiwari, Mr. Tarun, I'd like to ask you a few questions, Mr. Jindal, and every regular viewer of Thinker's Frequency. A lot of people have advised me that I should change the time of Thinker's Frequency. From 8 to 9, I should do it like 9 to 10, or something like that. They say that it'll be easier for people to join. Now, I'll tell you why I think 8 to 9 is a great time. Firstly, it forces me to wake up early. I have to wake up at like 5:30, 5:45, right? I start reading. I read for 1.5 hours, get ready by 8, 8 to 9, I deliver that session, and I'm then free for the day. So what I thought was that 9 a.m. is when people punch in for work mostly, and it'll be a commute thing, and it'll be very good, before this punch in. That was the idea, and a lot of people actually agree with that as well. But viewers of Thinkers Frequency, and we average like on an average we average like 12 to 15 people every day, right? And a lot of people told me that this number would go many folds if we changed the timings, if we delayed the timings. Now, what do you think about that, Ms. Bhatia, Mr. Jindal, Mr. Patil, Mr. Tarun, Mr. Tiwari, and everybody else? 8:30 to 9:30, is that, would that lead to more people? Because the demerit of delaying the show would be, first of all, I'll get late to work, right? 8:30 to 9:30, I'll get free by 9:45, 50, and then I'll be late to my actual work, which will be a problem. Secondly, we are very motivated people. It just might be possible that 8:30 to 9:30 is too late for us. Even though, I mean, a lot of people don't think that's like late. People think that 8 to 9 is very early. Now, I checked what Mr. Scott Adams' timings were. Now, his show starts at 7:30 p.m. here, and he lives in California, which means he starts his show at 7 a.m. 7 a.m. Now, 7 a.m. California time, 10 p.m. Eastern time. That's what works for Mr. Scott Adams. So, Scott Adams starts at 7 a.m. We start at 8 a.m., right? But he starts at 7 because Eastern time is 10 p.m. So, 3 hours ahead. So, that's what. Mr. Patil says later won't be possible for me, but if others benefit, then let's do it. No, even I never agreed to that. That's why I never. So that has been going on. I've gotten long messages from people who said, delayed, and I was like, Mr. Tiwari says 9 to 10 would be office hours. Absolutely right. After 9, my work calls start. Yeah, same here. We got to begin. So I think we should stick to 8 to 9 because that's the most motivated work hour. We get all our facts before the stock market picks up in 9:15, so we can check, whatever happens, and just as 9:15 is when I start working as well, when I just wind it up and I get to my office work, right? So 8 to 9 it is. That feedback, unfortunately, we won't be able to take it. Miss Akshaya writes, "Hi Nishant, 7 to 8 a.m. works for me. Beyond 9 is a bit challenging because it's office hours." So then it's settled. Miss Akshaya, Mr. Tiwari, Mr. Patil, 8 to 9 it is. With that, let's begin. Celebrate. I just wanted some feedback because, we are most motivated people, and I didn't want to do anything. I didn't want to delay the timing. So I'm glad you said this, but I just had to ask anyway, right? Now, uh, yesterday was Independence Day, and a lot of people were, waiting and watching. Yesterday was also Mr. Trump's meet with Mr. Putin, a very seriously high consequence meet for India, for Russia, for Ukraine, and uh, so that meet happened right by this morning. That meet was complete. Unfortunately, nothing happened. That's the long and short of it. Nothing happened. Both sides appreciated the efforts. Trump said, now it's on Zelensky. Mr. Putin said, next time in Moscow, right? And Trump said, Europe and Zelensky should basically, I'm not negotiating on behalf of Ukraine. So I've done what I've done, and it looks very positive. Now let's see what happens. So this is in that limbo zone where nothing comes out, no bad decision, no good decision. Everything just stays where it was, right? With some indication for some positive news that might break out. So the first meeting didn't yield any breakthrough result. So that's unfortunate. It's on Zelensky, and Zelensky says that under no situation would we surrender our land to Russia. That's what he said before the meeting. So that goes out of the window, right? Basically, we are where we were. So no early resolution to our problem. This essentially nullifies my hopes, essentially, and even a prediction, right? I thought that Russia would essentially look at some momentum as far as closing the war is considered, but it essentially just delayed everything. Like, okay, good, well done, good job. Let's talk later. Now, let's talk later is not a good sign for India because that hell is gonna rain on us, right? So that's that. By the way, a very significant thing was said. So a reporter asked Putin whether he believes that the war would have started if Trump was the president in 2020, right? And he said, I can confirm that if Trump was indeed president, I wouldn't have started. This war wouldn't have happened, which largely aligns with our analysis of the situation, what we've been saying. So Mr. Putin has actually confirmed that. However, regardless of what he's confirmed about the past, the present still stays murky. No quick resolution. Quick resolution was not probable, as we talked. Mr. Putin had all the chips, and he had everything, and uh, no, when Trump said Putin is bluffing, it was actually Trump which was who was bluffing because all the pressure was on Trump. Europe, Ukraine, everybody was relying on Trump, and that was just too much of pressure for him on one side, and no leverage because they've already tried everything to blackmail and to hurt Russia financially. So no leverage there. So essentially, we are where we were. Sorry about that. Bad news for everybody. Mr. Tiwari, I'm sorry I began with the bad news, but this was an important update before we move on to the next thing, right? Mr. Modi gave a speech at Independence Day when we were talking here. Mr. Modi was there giving an Independence Day speech, and in that speech, he outlined a lot of things. Uh, but let's just talk about three most important things, okay? Now, what have we been discussing for 83 days now is the consumption needs to go up. Number two, defense sector needs some fillip. Number three, the maritime sector needs some fillip. Right? Defense and maritime is basically one. So if we can narrow it down to two, we said that consumption needs fillip and defense needs fillip. Right? And Mr. Modi, what he said was just these two things. Consumption. For consumption, what he said is what we've already discussed. This was in the inkling, it was pretty clear that this was going to happen. It was about GST rationalization. So currently we have 12, 18, 28%, right? And what we are looking now at now is basically going away with the 12%, moving the 99% of items in 12% to 5%. It then comes 18% and then 28%, 18% for industry, services, and so on, 5% for essentials, and then 40% for the sin industry. That is the tobacco, alcohol, and gaming, right? There's the demerit industries. So 5, 18, 28, 40 instead of the 12%, and everything in 12% goes to 5% with reduced GST. You'll see a lot of this is gonna be beautiful, right? When GST comes down, prices of things are gonna come down by 10%, which is gonna be awesome. So the government is really hell bent on spurring consumption, and this GST thing is in that direction. Now, number two, for defense, PM outlined something called Sudarshan Chakra mission, which was obviously something that was on the cards. Is alcohol also considered a sin industry? Asks Mr. Patil. Yes, Mr. Patil, of course. Alcohol is considered a sin industry. Why would it not be considered a sin industry? Why would you have doubts about that? Like cigarette, alcohol, these are directly and verifiably injurious to health, right? So alcohol is the original sin industry, like the original sin industry. If you watch, there was a show about this, right? Sopranos, which talked about okay, so that was a joke. Very well done, Mr. Patil. Very well done. Beautifully done. So Mr. Patil came out with a very good joke, ladies and gentlemen. He said, "Is alcohol also considered a sin industry?" And then I started talking about it. I started just responding to it logically. And the next message he wrote, "Because politicians' interests are aligned with it." Very well done. Sopranos was about alcohol getting legalized, and alcohol trade before alcohol got legalized in the 1920s or something. If I'm not wrong, I hope I'm not mixing things, but yeah, that was what it was. So they are basically calibrating the GST play. Two slabs likely, 5 and 18% proposed, 40% levy on sin goods like tobacco. Moving on from the GST play, they are also talking about Sudarshan Chakra mission. Sudarshan Chakra mission is basically indigenous defense production. So they are gonna give it a fillip. They didn't outline any numbers for the defense production play, but they said we're gonna go heavy on it. Speaking of defense and allied defense, it's called maritime, and they talked about maritime exploration and excavation. Not excavation, right? Excavation would be a wrong word, but exploration. So they're talking about energy exploration on in the sea waters. So that has been a very sad thing for India, because in 2015, 10 years ago, PM gave a similar speech where he said for energy independence we'll have to go for maritime exploration. Nothing happened for 10 years, but it's a very serious priority. So he expressed the doubling down on this maritime exploration bit, and he also talked about nuclear energy. So he says that it's gonna go 10 times in the next 2 decades, because nuclear is in the foray, and a lot of steps have been discussed that viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember how they were looking at old and retired power plants, power plants, essentially the usual power plants, for and repurposing them into nuclear so that the land acquisition troubles don't happen. Right, land acquisition is obviously a big problem. Then inviting private player participation in nuclear, and easing the regulations and so on and so forth. So they're looking at 10 megawatt of nuclear power supply by 2047. They really want nuclear power to fly in India. So that was discussed at depth. And so what did we discuss? Like, we discussed consumption by GST. We discussed defense manufacturing, Sudarshan Chakra. We discussed maritime exploration, and we also discussed nuclear power unleashing through private party, situation. Private involvement. Now, this was obviously discussed. What was also discussed was what's already underway, which is the semiconductor play. Now, in that semiconductor play, what they were talking about was India's lost decades. Okay, so they said, and I quote, Mr. Modi and Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav basically highlighted it. They said that India lost a decade because in 1964, Mr. Robert Noyce, who's the founder of Intel and before that Fairchild Semiconductors, uh, he came to India to establish something in that domain, but he was pushed away because of Babu Shahi, the red tapeism, the license Raj, and he actually went ahead and set it up in Malaysia and Hong Kong. Basically, he set it up in Hong Kong, and then Southeast Asia. He went to Malaysia and stuff. He went away from India. So Mr. Modi said that lost decades, we could have invited him. We could have had a very early start in this play in 1964, 1969. We couldn't do that. And then Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav doubled down on this claim that he did look at India, but the government essentially screwed it up big time, right? Now this was a political attack, and now I tried to do some fact checking of it. So because I am I'm not interested in politics here, right? You know about it. We don't talk about politics. We don't care about politics, at least on this forum. So we talk about business. Now I was especially interested in the fact that did Robert Noyce, sir, deep respect, because I've read his biographies, right? Not Mr. Noyce biographies, but uh, Andy Grove's biographies, right? And they never mention India, even in like slightest. Forget about 1964. They don't even mention India in the late 90s, right? And I've been following these people very, very closely. I've watched their interviews. I've read their articles. Sometimes they write. So they never talk about India. Now I smelled some fact, uh, you know, fiddling here. So I went and did a heavy research. I tried to find whether Mr. Noyce actually visited India. Okay, I couldn't find anything in 1964. Now I couldn't find a single like contemporaneous proof that Mr. Noyce actually considered India. So in one of the places he said that he's looking at Asia, but never India. Never said India. Now I tried to further dig down. I only had limited amount of time. Most of my reading went here. Then I found Mr. Vinod Dham, who was amongst the pioneers of Pentium chip, of the Intel Pentium chip. He worked with Intel for a very long time. He's now 75 years old, amongst the pioneers of this whole computing chip paradigm. He said, by the way, so he verified it, that yes, uh, Robert Noyce, sir, essentially did look at India. However, his anecdotal reference was also based on Mr. Gurmeet Singh's uh, reference. And Mr. Gurmeet Singh said, he was also one of the big, figures in this play. He said that Robert Noyce came to India, but he was pushed away. But what Gurmeet Singh said, I couldn't find any source verifying it. So I don't know whether that happened. Is it possible? Definitely. Is it possible that Mr. Noyce actually visited India, was let away, but didn't mention it, didn't talk about it too much because it is not good news to share? Definitely possible. Is it possible that just Babu Shahi, just the red tape, was the reason why Intel couldn't work with India at a critical juncture? Definitely possible. So while it's possible, I couldn't really fact check it, is the news. Does this say anything? Uh, yes, it does, right? Yes, it does. Finally, we have to check his flight ticket or passport. Well, Mr. Noyce isn't here anymore with us, so we won't be able to do that. So I tried. I tried checking Intel's, uh, you know, reports because they mention right where they're going, but they just mentioned Asia, so we'll have to live with that. And with that, basically, they're right, uh, because if they said Asia, and if there are two sources who are mentioning anecdotal evidences or anecdotal recalls where they said, and one of them is the you know pioneer in Pentium. So we'll have to go with their word. And it's a fact when companies essentially look at Asia, they look at India too, and that would have been the case in 1964. And I said, is it possible that actually India had anything in 1964 to actually set up a plant in India? So India had like IIT set up, like IIT Kharagpur 1951, IIT Kanpur 1959, and so on and so forth. So maybe they were looking at some engineering people getting hired there and working with them. So with that, let's move on. Speaking of 2025, Tata and Merck are exploring exclusive chemical bond for the Dholera fab. Now, forget about 1965. I don't know what happened there, 1964, 1969. But in 2025, we are indeed making a fab, right? A fabrication plant. And Tata is essentially looking at Merck. Merck is Merck Pharma Company, MSD, for the chemical supply. You gotta need very ultra premium, ultra pure chemical to run uh, something like a fab, right? So they are tying up with Merck. 95,000 crore project in the line, on the line. Mr. Ashwini Vaishnav says we have one big fab, and then we have four ATMPs, right? Assemblies and manufacturing plants and whatever, ATMP. And we are gonna set up four more, two more, right? There was this 4,000 crore investment that we talked about, viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember. So a lot of things are going ahead now in 2025 as far as semiconductor play is considered. But just to draw down on the last point we mentioned, uh, even in 2020, even in 2014, we were not keen on setting up semiconductor. So if you remember, Mr. Raghuram Rajan and the likes, the whole intelligentsia was not very pro of the plan that we should spend like 10,000 crores or $10 billion on setting up new semiconductor plants. They said we're gonna make low quality, outdated products anyway, so let's focus our energy somewhere else. Let's give this money to universities, right, so that they can do research. So uh, that's possible that something like that happened. Moving on, uh, there's a report saying women are changing the spirit of the industry. Percentage of women in large alcobev and tobacco companies nudging closer to that in FMCG on DEI efforts. So while DEI has essentially been outlawed in America, where it came from, the Trump administration has clearly, unequivocally screwed DEI. All the universities in America are paying the Trump administration hundreds of millions of dollars, in some cases $1 billion, to essentially stop DEI activations. They're positioning themselves as that they've banned DEI. A lot of those DEI activities are coming to India. Alco Bev companies and tobacco companies are looking at hiring women just for the sake of DEI. Now, I've always maintained that it's very disrespectful for women uh, to say that they've been hired because of DEI. Now, Miss Akshaya might just provide some inputs there. What does she feel when she hears that women are getting hired for DEI? Is that the right thing to say, Miss Akshaya? That's a question. If if you can kindly answer it. I don't think it's very nice on any industry to say that they've hired more women because of DEI initiatives. It's just very disrespectful. And whenever any company does that, I just take an assume a natural short position on that company. I just assume that that company is gonna die uh, without any problems, right? DEI means to die. Intel died because of DEI, right? uh, so that's what's happening. United Spirits, United Breweries, ITC. Godfrey Phillips, by the way, is going slow on this. DE, I think, not really going heavy, but United Spirits, quite heavy. Moving on. Fintechs are betting on the festive spark in an unsecured lending play. They're saying that unsecured lending troubles are behind us, and we are going to go heavy. Bharat Pay, which owns 74% in trillion loans or registered NBFCs, they say that we are going to go capture the festive season in a proper way. Moving on. S&P's upgrade may bring down government's borrowing costs. So we discussed that yesterday. We discussed how S&P has upgraded India from triple B negative to triple B, and how that's gonna affect how India essentially, Indian private companies, financial organizations get external commercial borrowings. It obviously will help the government borrowings as well, because a good rating signals financial stability and the ability to pay back. And if India's rating is up, this particular borrowing cost will go down. You'll get loans at better interest rates, which is very obvious. No surprise there, thankfully. Moving on. uh, Independence Day is showing some revival in sales. Mr. Christopher Wood, he's the head of Jeffries, equity strategy. He says that Indian equities should not be sold because of 50% tariffs on India by America, because in fact they should be bought at this instance, because Trump will blink first. Well, this is what we've been talking about as well. We've been mentioning that this is not an attack on India. This is an attack on Russia, and a very temporary attack on Russia. And as soon as these things stabilize, Trump is gonna go back. So any dip in the market is an opportunity to buy. I guess Mr. Christopher Wood also watches Thinkers Frequency. It's only a matter of time before Trump backs off stance which is not in America's interest. It's so on and so forth. So he's been very against Trump usually, Christopher Wood. So it's no surprise that he's talking about Trump going back on his words. So no surprise there. Moving on. Sudarshan Chakra mission integrates cyber defense, space assets, and anti-drone platforms in missile force. I just wondered if it would have been so nice if Prime Minister would have actually given a number, right? That space sector and defense sector, we're going to up the spending. But none of that has happened. Only some signals and words, but which is okay, which is not bad at all, which is better than not doing anything, right? We talked about Gaganyaan though. Moving on. Maharashtra has empowered districts to attract private capital in a $1 trillion economy push. So Maharashtra wants a $1 trillion economy. UP, by the way, also is looking for a $1 trillion economy, or maybe a $2 trillion economy. These people, these states have good goals, but the way Maharashtra is going about it, it's giving the authority to divisional commissioners and district collectors, right, to manage and raise this money, private capital. Now, this is a sure shot way of screwing everything up, right? Because we know how Indian Babushahi, Indian bureaucracy is essentially a bottomless pit, right? You throw money at it and it just disappears. And that's what these people are trying. To address such concerns, Fadnavis has instructed district collectors to use 25% of district planning development committee funds to improve infrastructure for existing industries. Now, would this lead to anything? Uh, I'd say not a chance in hell, right? Not a chance in hell. But yeah, some babus are gonna get rich. That's nice for them. Moving on. Swiggy hikes delivery fee for food delivery platform. So Swiggy and Zomato, they Swiggy's losses got doubled, right? In the last quarter, it had a very bad quarter financially, and this particular season, the Independence Day, the festive season, the post-festive season. So these next two quarters are gonna go very very high on deliveries. So what Swiggy is doing, it's laying on a 14 rupee fee on deliveries, right? This is up from 12. So it started with 2 rupees, they're going up to 14 rupees platform charge. And they're saying that it will be dynamic. So it will be like a surge pricing thing. If the demand is up, it's gonna be up. If the demand subsides, it's gonna go down. So Swiggy really needs to feed the monkey. Swiggy is in big trouble. It has blown half of the funds it had raised in IPO. It's short on money. It's losing market share badly to Zomato. It's Instamart is bleeding cash all over the place. It's just a wreck right now, and wishing them luck. Moving on. Semiconductor ecosystem finally taking shape. We've already discussed that, right? ATMP is uh, what is ATMP? Yeah, assembly, testing, marking, and packaging. So that's an ATMP unit. It's saying we've have one fab and five assembly, testing, marking, and packaging units in different stages, and four more ATMP, one fab and three ATMPs, four more. Five we have, one fab, four ATMPs, then one another fab and three ATMPs are gonna go up. So that's the situation with our semiconductor mission. Moving on, uh, there's a report on how 5G is not being able to penetrate the inside office market, which is where 80% of data consumption happens. So 5G is trying to go inside. However, the walls, the when you're talking about in building 5G, walls become a good barrier for the wavelength that particular thing carries. So it's not being able to utilize that, but people are trying to find a way. So the report says in building solutions began in 2016 with 4G, right? 5G is struggling to penetrate walls. Users consume 80% of mobile data indoors. Uh, in building wireless market may grow $35 billion, and property managers are being suggested to actually help this out. So this is sort of an impediment, but as soon as this impediment is taken care of, maybe 5G consumption essentially takes up. Speaking of what's taking up, tablet sales are going smooth. India tablet market is going 20%, growing 20% quarter on quarter. Apple 30% volume share. However, what's the real news? Do you know the real news behind tablets? The market share going up, right? Market volume going up by 30%, to 20% quarter on quarter. But why is this not such a great news? Can you guess that? That's reading between the lines, right? Can you guess that? why is uh, market this particular news not such a big news actually? So while it is mentioned, it has a huge article, but why do you think tablet going 20% month on month, ditching laptops? No, Mr. Tiwari, it's because of a very small base. Very small base. So Indian tablet market, right? Indian tablet market by numbers is what? 5 million units. 5 million units, 5.7 million units, right? And you know what the Indian smartphone market is, right? It's 150 million units. So 5 million, 20% of 5 million is like what? 1 million. How does it matter? It's a very small base, but makes for a good news item. So it's a nothing burger, is what I'm saying, right? I'm listening to you on an iPad, says Mr. Patil. Well, you're amongst the very few people who can claim that. Moving on. Lower GST may heat up demand for packaged foods, daily essentials. Well, I told you. I told you. Z Entertainment bringing linear TV OTT under new company. So Z Entertainment is bringing linear TV and OTT under one unit. Can you guess why? Can you guess why Z must be bringing its TV and its OTT in one unit? Just take a second and guess. It's a very intelligent question, right? It's a very good question. So we've been talking about how TV is falling, right? And we've also talked about how companies demerge, right? In order to raise uh, Mr. Patil says because linear TV is no longer substantial. Well, that's true. That's true. But why not demerge the company and let it die? Right? That is a question. The answer to that is in line of what you already said. Because they need to sell the inventory. And selling the TV inventory is getting harder by the day. So it's not getting easier to sell TV ads anymore, right? It's just getting harder every day. And what you can do is, if you're going to sell, let's say to an FMCG company, instead of having different conversations with TV and OTT, you can just club them together and maybe get a better deal. So it makes sense, a lot of sense as a business strategy because uh, Z News doesn't just have national TV channels which sell. It also has local TV channels, like regional TV channels, right? And if they don't have the sales and distribution proper, they will just die, you know. And in order to preserve them, this is a pretty good strategy. Solid play. Speaking of uh, things dying, London has suffered a serious job loss. Tax hikes happened, consumption went down. UK essentially had a recession, right? Some time ago. So 25% of jobs in London are at a London capital has shed almost 45,000 payrolls since October, since Labour government announced a $26 billion hike in employment's national insurance. It means 1 in 4 of all job losses across the country have come from London. So London is the highest productive zone, highest production zone, essentially highest labor participation density zone in UK, and it's facing a very tough time. It's becoming very difficult to keep pubs alive, to keep restaurants alive, retail, hospitality. These are the major sectors which are laying off people. Now the problem is that retail and hospitality, while not paying well, while not being the most well-paying sectors, employ the most number of people at the bottom of the pyramid, right? And if that falls off, you can imagine the cascading effects, right? Uh, so that's what's happening in terms of taxes. Lost around 30,000 hospitality jobs over the year. The rent is higher, the business rates are higher, wage costs are higher, and we're not seeing enough money coming through the front door to be able to cover those costs. This is what happened when consumption goes down. You know, people start losing jobs all of a sudden, which is not cool. Not cool. Mahindra and Mahindra is planning a world tour on multi-energy SUV platform, and it says that we are not looking at revenue share. We want to look at market share. So revenue share and market share. You realize the difference between the two, right? Revenue share can come by few but very high value selling cars, right? Market share comes by the number of cars. So the chief says volume share gains are happening on their own, but our metric remains revenue market share. He says chasing volumes could lead us to wrong strategic direction. So I actually said the opposite. Revenue market share is basically selling things that are high value, and volume is basically volume play. So Mahindra is plotting a calibrated push into overseas market. Will spawn in the next generation of SUVs. The automaker, however, continue to prioritize leadership in revenue market share over sheer volume gains. So he says we don't want to show volume growth just for the sake of it. We want to show revenue market share growth, right? Which makes sense. I don't know why I said the opposite, but yeah. So they have a very good platform now. They have created a platform, a tech platform. The company will unveiled Vision S concepts on the new IQ. The platform is designed for high modularity and component commonality, enabling faster deployment, lower costs, and agility to adjust product offerings with shifting consumer preferences and technology trends. So it's basically a line that they've created, which basically helps them churn internal combustion engines, electric powertrains, along with front and all-wheel drive and both left and right hand drives. So their production is really tight, is really streamlined, and they're looking at overseas markets to grow themselves, which is cool. Mahindra is really done exceedingly well, man. It has grown so well. When Tata's market share has fallen like 0.2%, revenue like Mahindra's market share went up by 7% or 8%. 66% of all cars sold in the country are SUVs, and Mahindra is one of the leaders of those cars, right? So that's that. Moving on. 10 new nuclear reactors, we've talked about that. India to tap deep water reserves for self-reliance. Country imports 90% of its oil and half its gas, straining forex reserves. So we've talked a lot about forex reserves, and the reason oil import is a big contributor to it. So we don't need to discuss that unless somebody wants an explanation on that specifically. Global plastic treaty talks end without deal amid sharp rifts. So people are in two minds. In 1960s, if you watched a movie called Graduate, which is like the cornerstone of American culture, that movie defines American culture. It's a culture defining work. Dustin Hoffman, directed by Mike Nichols. It says, an uncle comes to the lead actor, Dustin Hoffman, who's like a 29-year-old guy in that movie. And he says, 22-year-old guy, just coming out of college, 23. And he says, the future is in plastics, right? That's what he said. The future is in plastics. Go in plastics. That was 1967. That movie came out in 1967. However, in this day and age, plastic is being looked upon as a very problematic thing, right? However, what's undeniable is how effective plastic is as far as its utilities are considered. While Europe is trying to move away from plastics, and a lot of environmentalists have come to like paper straws, Trump said like paper straws are disgusting and they don't work. So he's banned paper straws in the government procurement, right? So these conflicts are still very, very strong. And there was this, after 2 weeks of negotiations in Geneva, talks to finalize an international treaty to combat plastic pollution ended without an agreement, because Saudi Arabia, Kuwait and India, they favor plastic waste management instead of going out of plastics altogether, while small, countries and small island states, Latin America, Africa, EU, they want to push total ban of plastic, cutting of production. So that's what's happening. By the way, that 3,000 rupee fast tag, which we talked about, right? They had like a plan to raise money where they'd issue a 3,000 rupee fast tag pass, which would essentially cut down your costs of travel. You know, that got sold like 1.4 lakh people bought it in the first day. So that was the launch day. 1.4 lakh people buying a 3,000 rupee fast tag. What does this mean in revenues? 42, 4 lakh 20,000, 4 lakh 20,000 times 1,000. So 4 lakh 20, 42 lakhs, 4 crore 20 lakhs, 42 crores. So they could sell like 42 crore worth of fast tags in one day, which is just chump change at that scale, but still very encouraging, right? So moving on. Very interestingly, SBI has hiked the home loan rate by 25 basis points, 0.25%. SBI has hiked the home loan rate. Now this is pretty surprising because RBI signal was reducing the rates, right? So whenever repo rates come down, the loan rates come down. That's the signal. However, loan rates are dependent on a lot of issues. And one of those issues is the net interest margin game. And to protect net interest margins and to make sure that these loans are profitable, SBI has done this particular thing. And a lot of people are seeing this as a signal for something like this. So while the retail loan book is going to come down, those prices are going to come down, are coming down. The home loans might just grow up because home loans are very, very important to preserve the net interest margin of these banks. So this is very, very interesting. By the way, moving on. I have a very, very interesting news for you. So World Economic Forum has cleared founder Schwab of misconduct. So Charles Schwab, the WEF guy, he was accused of a lot of misappropriation of funds and so on and so forth. So the investigation happened of this company, of this organization, by his people, and they cleared him of all wrongdoings. Like, how cool is that, right? Does this seem familiar to you? Does this seem interesting to you? Like, WEF clears founder of all wrongdoings. So, congratulations, Mr. Schwab. A trade war has put a dent on Chinese economy. Factory activity slowest in 8 months. Factory activity is slow. Consumption is slow in China. Factory activity, 47 was the PMI. It's shrinking. Consumption is shrinking. Loans are shrinking in China. We just discussed that. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember. China retail loan book is shrinking. So consumers are really, really, scared. They're saving money. The domestic savings are piling up because people are not really bullish on what's going to happen. So they're saving money, and that particular bit is on. So retail sales grew 3.7%, the least in 2025, and down from 4.8% from the previous month. So 4.8% last year growth, this year 3.7%. Everybody getting scared. Meanwhile, in China, world's first humanoid robot games are beginning. So they are like having their own Olympics of humanoid robots. Like, China is just a different planet, right? It's just a different planet altogether. At one point, you're seeing some sort of stress as far as the macro fundamentals are considered of the economy, and on the other side, you're seeing like world's first humanoid Olympics robot games. This is just extraordinary. Speaking of China, Japan is actually seeing its exports going up. So, you know, Q2 GDP has gone up. Exports are fighting the tariffs. Japan is gaining where China is losing. As always, our thesis which said business decisions are mostly the outcome of political will. That's playing out. China was favored. China was doing well for a very long time when it had favorable politicians in the West. Politicians went out of favor. China's GDP started showing stress. Japan exports up, right? No surprise there to anybody, least of all us. Least of all us. Moving on. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interestingly, a lawyer has apologized for AI generated errors in murder case. Then Australian senior lawyer in Australia actually had a murder case where he was fighting for, and he just used ChatGPT and gave it, and he got screwed, and he just apologized and admitted all wrongdoing, and guess what? He was an Indian. Does that surprise you? Does that surprise you? Uh, US is talking about tariffs on steel and chips, further tariffs, as discussed. So Trump says, I'm gonna have a tariff, little tariff right now, and then I'm gonna raise it like gonna do in pharmaceutical companies. This is essentially a bid for people to come back to and start manufacturing in US, which is no surprise. No surprise. And that's about it, ladies and gentlemen. A pretty slow day for news, but still not that slow. We've had slower days. You know, we are. This brings us to an end of the 83rd episode of Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis, which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. It's 9 a.m. exact. We're gonna punch in anytime soon. I wish you a beautiful day personally and professionally. And I'll see you tomorrow, hopefully, same place, same time. Have a beautiful day. Bye bye. Take care. I hope you had fun. Thank you so much, Mr. Patil, Mr. Tiwari, Miss Akshaya. Uh, see you tomorrow. I hope it added value. Bye bye.